See, yesterday we have completed the classification of systems. So out of 7 classifications, you need to focus more on linear and non-linear systems, causal or non-causal systems, and stable, unstable systems, and time variant and time invariant systems. Okay, why I am saying these 4 classifications are very important? That means in your university question paper, you have been given only one system. That may be either a discrete case or that may be either continuous time case. Okay, for that system you are asked to find out, or you are asked to check whether that system is a static or dynamic, causal or non-causal, linear or non-linear, or time variant and time invariant. Sometimes you have been asked to verify the 4 conditions. Okay, classification of the systems are properties of the systems, both are same. Don't get confused, don't get confused. So sometimes I may use the word classification, sometimes I'm using the word properties of the system. Okay, properties of the system. Right, now today I'm going to discuss the very important concept, that is analogy between vectors and signals. Okay, so for that purpose I'm going to share my whiteboard here. Now see, here I'm sharing my whiteboard here. I'm sharing my whiteboard here. Now the concept is analogy between vectors and signals. See, what is the importance of learning this particular concept? So before going to start any new topic, or before going to start uh, understand a new problem, first of all you have to associate that particular new problem with the familiar phenomenon. See, most of the times I am relating the concepts of signals and systems to our human, I mean regular field applications, regular applications, regular applications. Why? Why? Because we are going to understand the concept in very clear manner, in very clear manner. Okay, so that is why every time I am relating the examples of real-time or regular field applications to the signals and systems. So similarly, in this case also, analogy between vectors and signals. What do you mean by analogy? What do you mean by analogy? So here, analogy is nothing but a comparison. Analogy is nothing but a comparison. So comparison between what are the similar qualities that are in the case of vectors and signals. Of course, already you have learned the concept of analogy between electrical systems and mechanical systems. Okay, so whatever may be the quantities that are in electrical systems and how those parameters can be converted to the mechanical terminology. So in that case also, we are going to apply the same concept here. So to understand easily or to remember any new problem, so you have to associate the concept with the familiar phenomenon. So likewise, in this case also, I am going to apply the concepts what you have studied in the case of vectors and how we are relating the same concepts to signals. Okay, that is the content what we are going to study in this particular concept, analogy between vectors and signals. Okay, right, now see here, this is the concept, analogy between vectors and, so before going to start the analogy between vectors and signals, first of all let us discuss about the concept of vectors here. Let us discuss about the concept of vectors. So vector, right, vector. Now what is a vector? So a vector is a specified magnitude and direction. A vector is nothing but which consists of the specified magnitude and the direction. It is also signal which is having both magnitude and the direction. That is what you have learned about the vector in the case of electromagnetic field theory. Okay, so always we shall denote the vectors with the bold face type and their magnitudes with the light face type. Okay, that is not a problem. So that is not a problem. Already you know how to represent a vector. The representation of vector is very easy. Okay, so in this particular case I am considering two vectors. So I am considering vector v1. I am calling those two vectors as vector v1 and vector v2. Okay, now I'm going to represent the same vectors with the use of graphical representation. Now see here. Now consider the vectors as shown. The vectors as shown. Now see. Now see here. So here I am considering, see, this is my assumption. This is my assumption only. I am considering these two vectors which is as shown in the figure. Which is as shown in the figure. Okay. So here I am calling this vector as v1 and here I am calling this vector as v2. Now these are the two vectors that I have considered. So the vector v1 can be expressed in terms of vector v2 in in infinite ways. So it is also possible to express v1 in terms of vector v2. How we can express the v1 vector in terms of v2? Just by drawing a line. Okay, just by drawing a line from this point, from the end of the vector v1 onto v2. That is possible in, okay, that is possible in infinite number of ways. Now see here, again I'm going to draw the same vectors here. Now see, now you can able to understand the concept here. Now here I am considering three cases. In each of the case, I have represented v1 and v2 like this, the same as the representation of case 1. Now see here. Now see. So here I am considering v1. In this case also I am considering v1. In this case I am considering v2, and in this case I am considering v2. So now see the three cases. This is case 1. Now this is case 2. Now this is case 3. So in all the cases, the representation of the two vectors is same. Now, how can we represent the vector v1, okay, in terms of vector v2? That is the problem here. Now, if the two vectors are placed like this, how can we represent the v1 in terms of a vector v2? Now let us see how we are going to represent the vectors, one vector in terms of another vector. That is depends completely on the line which is connected between v1 and v2. Now see here the case 1. Please all of you take a look at this. Now I am drawing a line here. This is the first one. This is the second one. And now this is the third one. Okay. Now in this case, this vector is called error vector. This is V1. In this case, this error vector is denoted with VE2. Error vector is VE2. Now, in this case, the error vector is given by VE. Now, how can we represent this V2 in terms of V1? Now, just you add this component with this, obviously you will get V1. Now, let us see how we are going to get the equations. Okay. Now, this VE1, VE2, VE are called the error vectors. Okay. Now see here I am considering this vector up to this point C1 into V2. Now this is called C2 into V2. Up to this point, the magnitude of this vector is given by C2 into V2. Now similarly, see here, this is C12 into V2. Now, how can we represent? Now, the representation of one vector in terms of another vector is a very, very important point. Now, take a look at this. How I am going to represent the vector V1 in terms of V2. Now, V1 is equal to, see, all the terminologies that you have already studied in your electromagnetic field theory. Now, how can we obtain this vector V1? Just you add or you sum this vector along with this vector. That means C1 into V2 plus the error vector which is given by VE1. The error vector VE1. So likewise, we are expressing the component of V1 in terms of the vector V2. Okay, so this is the approximated value. I am not going to say this is the exact value. So just now we have represented V1 is equal to C1 into V2 plus VE1. This is only the approximated value. This is not the original value. So whatever may be the expression that I am going to write here is completely a approximated version. That is not the exact version. Now in this case, similarly, in this case also V1 is equal to, so these are the expressions completely written from the graphs what we have drawn here, case 1, case 2, case 3. So V1 in this case also again the same, V1 can be expressed in terms of V2. So C2 into V2 plus VE2. Now in this case V1 is equal to C12 V2 plus VE. Okay, now this is the case. Now if you clearly see the first case and second case, obviously in the first case maybe the error signal is in small values. Okay, small values, and in the second case maybe the error value is a large values. Basically that depends on the value of C2 into V2 and the angle between vector V1 and vector V2. Completely that is belongs to the based on the theta angle between V1 and V2. So in both the cases V1 and V2, in both the cases case 1 and case 2, so V1 may be either too large or too small. Okay, but geometrically speaking, the component or the vector V1 along the vector V2 is obtained by drawing a perpendicular line from the end of V1 onto V2. That means perpendicular means the angle between those two vectors is equal to 90 degrees. So that what is the dot product? V1 into V2 dot product means the dot product of two vectors, which is given by V1 V2 cos theta. Now where theta is the angle between V1 and V2. So when this will be maximum, When this will be maximum is a very important point here. Okay, obviously whenever theta is equal to 0, theta is equal to 0, that means cos theta will be equal to 1. So that is v1 into v2. Now this is the case how we are going to get the value of theta. See, what I want to tell you is the analogy between, please try to understand the concept in clear. Initially we are considering two vectors, and those two vectors are placed, okay, which is as shown in the figures, case 1, case 2, case 3. Now there is a possibility of representing one vector in terms of another vector. Now here I am expressing v1 in terms of v2. How we are going to express v1 in terms of v2? Just by considering an error vector. The error vector is the component which is connected between v1 and v2. So in the case 1, the error vector is given by ve1. In case 2, the error vector is given by ve2. And later in case 3, the error vector is denoted with the ve. So as per geometry, that means geometrically the component of a vector v1 along the vector v2 is obtained by drawing a perpendicular from the end of v1 onto v2. So in this particular case, error vector ve must be minimum. Now see the case 3. In this case only, I'm saying that in this case only there is a chance of getting very less error, or the error may be minimum. In these particular two cases, VE1 and VE2, obviously you should get either large values or very small values of the error. Okay, so that is why we are not going to consider the first one for case 1 and case 2. Okay, so that is why the third one case, in case 3, V1 has been approximated. Now please take a look at this. V1 is equal to C12 into V2 plus VA is the approximated value of the vector V1. Now you need to choose a proper value of C12, such that this error vector VE must be minimum. Error vector CE must be minimum. So that is a very important concept you need to remember here. The magnitude of C12 is an indication of the similarity of the two vectors. So here, what is C12? C1 represents the magnitude of the vector V2. On V2, you are going to consider. So you need to select a proper value of C12 such that it will make the error is equal to 0. Okay, if C12 is 0, obviously vector v1 has no component. So see here, if you are replacing c12 is equal to 0 here, obviously there is no vector along the vector v1. So there is no. So v1 is equal to, obviously, okay, there is no representation, no component along the vector v2. So there is no meaning of having VE. So in that case, V1 is equal to 0. There is no component along the vector V2. Okay, there is no possibility of representing vector V1 in terms of vector V2. Okay, so hence two vectors V1 and V2 are mutually perpendicular in this particular case. Whenever C12 is equal to 0, means the angle between V1 and V2 is equal to, okay, is equal to 90 degrees. That means exactly perpendicular. V1 and V2 are exactly perpendicular, mutually perpendicular. The vectors which are mutually perpendicular to each other are called orthogonal vectors. So here the concept, again, one more concept have been studied by you, okay, to understand the analogy between vectors and signals. New concept here, orthogonal vectors. Whenever V1 and V2, or whenever any two vectors are perpendicular to each other, obviously you can call those vectors as orthogonal vectors. Orthogonal stands for the angle between those two vectors is equal to 90 degrees. So see here, the product of two, if you want to say V1 and V2 are mutually orthogonal to each other, means the angle between V1 and V2 is equal to 90 degrees. So what happens if we substitute theta is equal to 90 degrees here? You will get V1 V2 is equal to V1 multiplied by V2. Here this is not the direct product, this is dot product. So this is dot product. So this is a direct product. So cos 90 is 0. That means with the dot product of two vectors is equal to 0 means obviously you can call those two vectors v1 and v2 is equal to v1 are orthogonal vectors. Now see here I am going to represent the component v1 along with the v2, v1 along v2. So how can we represent v1 along v2? So v1 along v2, v1 along v2 is given by, I think you know the percentage of no load. So we are going to express the percentage. That means first of all we are going to consider the, okay, first of all we are going to consider the difference, no load minus the full load divided by the full load. So likewise in this case also, if you are going to represent the component along one vector along another vector, so first of all we have to note down that, so v1 into v2, the dot product of two vectors divided by v2. So here we are representing v1 along v2, v1 along v2, that is given by c12 into v2. So originally in the figure we have taken c12 into v2 is the component along v2, is the component along v2, that is corresponds to vector v1. Okay, so from this we obtained like this. So c12, so our intention is very clear. You need to select proper value of c12 such that the error must be minimum, the error must be minimum. That is our intention. So c12 is equal, so that is why I'm going to determine the expression for c12. See, I have not considered case 1 and I have not considered case 2. Why? Because in this case, so there are large errors. Even though this is VE1 is a very small, means obviously you will get the large errors. So one doubt is going to be in your mind that, sir, how we are going to represent the dashed line like this or dashed line like this? Why not you have taken like this? Why not you have taken like this? Or why not you have taken like this? Or why not you have taken like this? See, this is completely my assumptions. I'm assuming. So there are infinite number of ways of drawing the combined line for V1 and V2. You can represent or you can consider any line. But for our understanding, I'm considering the line like this. But I'm not going to say this is the only method to, or this is the only line that is available to, okay, add V1 and V2 vectors. So you can have different lines that may be connect to V1 to V2. So in case 1 and case 2, those are completely different. And in case 3, so in that particular case, V1 and V2, obviously VE should be minimum. So you need to choose proper value of C12 such that it will make the error signal or the error vector must be very minimum. So that is why I'm going to write down the expression here. So just see here, V1 along V2, that is given by V1 dot product of V1 and V2 divided by the V2. We are expressing V2 along, we are considering V1 on V2. Suppose if you are considering V2 along V1 means obviously you will get V1 here. That is the only difference. Here we are considering V1 along V2, but not V2 along V1. Suppose if you are considering V2 along V1 means obviously you will get V1 in the denominator. Okay, that is the point you need to remember. Right. Now, so from this, what you will get? The dot product of the two vectors. The dot product of the two. See, this is not the direct product. This is the dot product divided by V2 square. V2 square. So C12, the expression for C12 is given by V1, the dot product of the two vectors we have considered V1 and V2 divided by V2 square. Suppose if the considered vectors, that means V1 and V2, if the considered vectors V1 and V2, see here, I am writing here. So if the considered vectors V1 and V2 are orthogonal, considered vectors are orthogonal. What is the condition for orthogonality? The angle between theta is equal to 90 degrees. The angle between V1 and V2 is equal to 90 degrees. So see here, the dot product of the two vectors V1 and V2 is equal to V1 V2 cos theta. Now this is the expression, we know that. If you replace theta is equal to 90 here, what you will get? Cos theta, cos 90 becomes 0. So 0 into anything, 0. So the dot product is equal to 0. That means if you replace the dot product with 0 here, now what you will get? What you will get? Now this is the value of C12 that you have to choose to minimize the error vector if the two vectors are orthogonal to each other. If the two vectors are orthogonal to each other. So just now when I talking about this case 3, I told you that you need to choose the proper value of C12 such that to make that C12 is VE must be minimum. We are going to choose the proper value of C12 such that it makes VE is minimum. So in the case of orthogonality, obviously C12 is equal to 0. That means whenever C12 is equal to 0 means there is no vector. Okay, on to the next vector V2. On V2, there is no component. So frankly speaking, there is no component of V1 along vector V2. So that is why the angle between the vector V1 and vector V2 is equal to 90 degrees. So this is about the vectors. Okay, this is not new thing. This is already you have learned. Now what is the new thing here? Now we are going to apply the same concept to the signals. Once if you are familiar with this vector analysis, obviously we can able to apply the same concept for signals also. Now how, let us discuss about the concept of signals, how we are going to relate the concepts what we have studied in vectors and how you are those concepts are related to signals here. Now please try to remember these vector diagrams, and finally what is the expression for C12 we have obtained for orthogonality. Okay, see, don't worry, I will give you time for clarification of your doubts. Okay, don't get tensed. So as per the instructions received, we are not going to provide you the chat box options, and unmute them, unmute yourselves. I will give you time, don't worry. Now let us discuss about the analogy between the vectors and the signals. So just now we have discussed about the vectors, concept of vectors. Now let us discuss about the concept of signals. How we are going to relate the same vector concepts to the signals. Now this is the case. Now see here, signals. The concept of vector comparison and orthogonality can be, see, just now I told you that, just now, okay. The concept of orthogonality, that what you have studied in the previous case has been extended to now the signals. That is the only thing you are going to learn in this particular concept. Okay, so what happens if we extend the same concept to this? Okay, consider again consider two signals. Consider again two signals. Now consider two signals. Those two signals are x1 of t and x2 of t. Consider again, we are considering two signals, x1 of t, x2 of t. See here, see, every time I am going to relate the same concept with vectors like v1 and v2. So in the earlier case, we have considered two vectors v1 and v2. Now in this particular case, I am considering two signals x1 and x2. But this is not related to our topic. Just forget about this. Right. So likewise, like in the previous case, likewise, we are considering two signals x1 of t and x2 of t. So again, we can approximate x1 in terms of x2. So similarly, in the previous case, we have taken the vector v1 in terms of vector v2. in terms of vector v2. So basically those are vectors. So that is why we have not considered the interval. But when we come to the signals, obviously the interval must be very, very important. So in which interval you are going to express x1 of t in terms of x2 of t, that is also very, very important. Now here come to the interval. In this case also again I am going to approximate x1 of t in terms of x2 of t in the interval minus t1, sorry, plus t1, not minus, I'm sorry. So in the interval t1 less than or equal to t less than or equal to less than t2. So over an interval t1 and t2 we are going to approximate x1 in terms of x2 of t. So every time for each and every step you need to relate the concept of signal and concept of vectors. Now see here how we are going to express the x1 in terms of another vector. So there v1 is equal to c12 into v2 plus ve. So in that case it is a vector. v1 and v2 are vector which is having magnitude and direction, but in this case this is a signal. We are going to relate the concept of vectors to signals. Okay, so that is why in this case I am considering only the coefficient of the constant c12 into x2 of t. You should not have any addition for this. There you will have an additional vector, that is error vector. You have to add error vector to the component which is on the vector v2. Okay, now in this case how we are going to obtain the error, that is also very, very important. Okay, so likewise for comparison I'm going to write down the vector analysis also. So c12 into v2. See, I'm not going to say that completely error is zero here, but in that particular case you will have error vector. So likewise you are going to calculate the error here. In the case of signals, but in that particular case the error vector is there. Error vector you need to, if you add the error vector to the component on the v2, you can get the original signal v1, that is also expressed in terms of vector v2. Okay, so here now see I am relating the concept of vectors and signals. Now here x1 of t can be expressed in terms of x2 of t. Here v1 vector is expressed in terms of vector v2. Okay, over an interval t1 to t2. That is also very important. Let us don't discuss about this here. Okay, now the error function. So now the turn comes to determine the error function in this case also. So error function is denoted with the xe of t. How we are going to determine the error vector? Now see, error vector xe of t is equal to how do you get the error value? See, this is approximated value. This is not the original value. What is the original signal? Original signal is only x of t, but this is approximated value. So if you take the difference between the original value and approximated value, you will get the error function. Okay, so x1 of t, this is the original function. And later this will be, that means c12, if you take the subtraction between these two functions, obviously you will get the error function. But in the case of vector analysis, we have taken one more vector that is connected in between the points of v1 and on to the v2. But in this case, we are going to obtain the error function by taking the subtraction between the original function and the approximated version. That is the only difference between the signals and the concepts you have studied in your, okay, vectors. Okay, now please try to remember this. Try to remember this. So if we choose to minimize the error, how to reduce this error? How to reduce this error? Reduce means obviously we are going to minimize. Okay, we are going to minimize the error signal. How we are going to minimize this error signal? How you are going to minimize this error signal? So you need to integrate, okay, over a period of time. So t2 minus t1 integral t1 to t2 integral t1 to t2. So you have to minimize the function xe of t. How do you minimize? Means this is the expression you have to use for minimizing the error signal. Now later, if we substitute xe of t, this one, this is already we have derived. So if we substitute the same in this equation, you will get 1 by t2 minus t1, okay, integral t1 to t2, simply x1 of t minus c12 into x2 of t, into x2 of t into dt. Now this is how you are going to minimize this error signal. Okay, so this is the approximated value of x1 of t, and this is the original value of x, x of t. So always we should act to reduce the error that we are going to place to have the original signal. That is our main purpose. But most of the times this expression does not holds good. Why? Because this will give the more wrong results. More number of times this expression what we have derived just now is gives wrong results. So that is why instead of taking the error, that means to minimize this error, we are going to consider the mean square error. So in place of error signal, now we are going to consider, or we are going to integrate mean square error. What is the big difference between this one and the earlier version, what we are going to see? Okay, why this particular expression does not holds good? What is the cause of having the errors? Why? Because there can be a large positive and negative errors present in the interval t1 to t2 that may be cancelled. Okay, here we are integrating that expression over a range t1 to t2 that will use more positive values and more negative values. Obviously when we go on from t1 to t2, most of the times all the values are gets cancelled. So that is why, okay, when we take the averaging of all the conditions, it will give 0, but that is false, that is not true. Okay, so to overcome this we must choose, okay, mean square error instead of error directly. So in this particular case, this is only the error. If you are considering this, obviously you will get the more inappropriate result. So that is why instead of considering the error function like this, now see how I am going to consider the mean square error. Simply I am going to replace xe by xe square of t. That is the only difference. So 1 by t2 minus t1 over a range t1 to t2 xe square of t, xe square of t, so into dt. So instead of taking this one, now this is the expression we need to consider for minimizing the error function. That means xe of t. Okay, so anyone is having any doubts? If you are having any doubts, you please raise your hand. If you are having any doubts, you please raise your hand so that I will give you the permission for unmute yourself. I think no one is having any doubts regarding this particular topic. Maybe this is new, don't get confused. Okay, so once if you go through the concepts what I have discussed in this class, and when I supplied the material related to this particular subject, signals and systems, okay, later you will get some doubts. Don't worry, at that time also I will clarify your doubts. Okay, I think no one is there. No one is there for raising their hands. Okay, let us continue. Right. So instead of considering error directly, now we are going to consider the mean square error. Okay, so for that purpose I am going to present my PPT here. So it is not possible to derive the expression, so from the PPT directly I will discuss the content. Okay, just wait a moment. Within 5 to 10 minutes I shall complete the session. I think now you are able to see my PowerPoint presentation here. See what are the contents that we have discussed on the whiteboard. Again, we are going to see the same contents on the PowerPoint presentation also. Okay. Now see here. So already we have completed this one. So this is the example we have taken, and we have taken. So see, this is case 3. I think we have drawn. This is case 3. Case 3. Okay. Now see here. So already we have seen this one. So one possible way of minimizing error is integrating over the interval. Students, can you able to see my PowerPoint presentation? Can anybody raise your hand, please? Okay, thank you. I think we have discussed about this point. So, okay, this is maybe the representation is different, but the final intention is same. So here, instead of FE, I have taken XE of t, but no problem at all. Instead of taking FE of t, I am considering only XE of t, whatever it may be, the representation is error function. Okay, so x1 of t. So here f1 of t is replaced with x1 of t, f2 of t is replaced with x2 of t. Now, instead of taking this error function directly, see here, however, this step is also does not reduce the error to appreciable extent. That means we are not going to get the original value. Okay, even though this is this shows the 0, but actually frankly speaking that does not shows the 0 error. So this can be corrected by taking the mean square error function. So what is the difference between normal function and mean square error? Only thing is you need to consider the square of this one. Now see here, epsilon is nothing but the error function. Okay, now that is considered as XE of t. That is what we have taken in the discussion. So XE of t is equal to this one. So obviously, if I have substituted the value of FE of t in this, you will get whole square. So where A is the mean square error value, and the value of C12 which minimizes the error, you need to calculate. So see here, how do you reduce the error, or how do you minimize the error? So basically it is a continuous time function. So to minimize the error, you must differentiate. So how do you minimize the error? How do you minimize the value? Minima and maxima. I think already you have completed these topics in your mathematics, engineering mathematics, minima and maximum. Okay, how do you get the minimum value and how do you get the maximum value? Okay, if you consider the first differentiation, dx by dt is equal to 0. If you equate that dx by dt is equal to 0, you will get the minimum function or maximum function, whatever it means. So to get the minimized function, obviously we should consider the differentiation. Okay, here consider differentiation with respect to C12, That is the important point you need to remember here. Just wait a moment. Please stop your 2:15. Stop your video for some time. Okay. Right. Now see, if we differentiate the mean square error, so this is what we have written on the above slide. So if you differentiate mean square error with respect to C12, what you will get? So d by dC12 of, so already we have seen 1 by T2 minus T1 integral T1 to T2. So this is Fe of T, Fe square of T. Please try to remember. So Fe square of T. Now what is Fe of T? That is equal to F1 of T minus, see, original function F1 of T minus the approximated function F2 C1 into C12 into F2 of T. If we substitute this in place of this, obviously what you will get? Now in this case, I am taking this the differentiation of C12 into the integration. Just I am changing the integration and the differentiation. I am going to change the order. So what happens if we consider the differentiation of this entire function? Now see here, a minus b whole square. What you will get? A square minus 2ab plus b square. Not only that, you are going to apply the differentiation d by dc12 of a square, d by dc2 d12 of a 2 into ab plus d by dc12 into b square. Now see here, so this is completely independent on the c12. Completely independent on C12. That means obviously this term gets vanished. Obviously you will get 0. You will get 0. Now what about this? What about this? So now see here, d by dc12 of this one. So obviously if you are differentiating d by dc12 of this one, so F1 and F2 are, you can take those two terms outside of the differentiation. So what you will get? So F1 of T into, if you take these two functions out of the differentiation, why? Because these two terms are completely independent on C12. So what you will get? D by dC2 of dC12 of C12. So d by dx of x, what you will get? Only 1. So that is why minus 2 F1 F2 of T into dt. So this is what you get. Now see here, again in this case also, d by dx of x square, 2 into x. So 2 into C12, you will get this one. You will get this one. Is it not? Is it not? So integral of only, so by taking the differentiation of this mean square error, you will get two terms. So this is term 1. See, I have not eliminated the integrals here. Please try to remember. So this is first term, this is second term. First term and second term. So how do you get this 0? How do you get this 0? To have the minimized value, you must equate. So see, again I am going to relate the concept with the maxima and minima. Maxima and minima in the mathematics. So how do you get the maximum value or how do you get the minimum value of x? You should equate the differentiation of that x is equal to 0. Likewise, in this case also, you must equate the differentiation d by dc12 of d by dc12 of fe of t or the error function is equal to 0. So that is why this 0 comes. Okay, on the left hand side, the first term gets cancelled. That means you will get 0 here. You will get only the terms this one and this one. Likewise, if you equate this to 0, so what you will get? So finally, our conclusion is, our intention is to calculate what is C12. Now see here, C12 is equal to integral of T1 to T2 F1 of T into F2 of T divided by T square. So earlier, when we discussed about the vector concepts, what we have obtained the expression for C12, the dot product of V1 multiplied, or the dot product of two vectors V1 by V2 is equal to V2 square. Now, this is how you are going to get the value of expression. Now compare these two. So this one and this one. This is completely from the vectors concepts. So this is the vector concept has been extended to signals. Now see, so f1 multiplied by f2 divided by f2 square of t. This component is 0 if the two signals are said to be orthogonal. Not only vectors, orthogonal signals are also there. If you want to say two vectors are orthogonal, means the dot product is equal to 0. If you want to say two signals are orthogonal, means the dot product, not dot product, C12. So this should be equal to 0, the upper part. Integral of f1 of t into f2 of t multiplied by dt should be equal to 0. Then only this component C12 is equal to 0. Now what happens if this component denominator term is 0? Means obviously that is equal to infinity. So what is the condition for orthogonality? So C12 is equal to 0. Now if you equate C12 is equal to 0, what you will get? The condition for orthogonality of a signal are given by integral t1 to t2 f1 of t. Just wait 2 to 3 minutes so that I will conclude this session. So the concept of orthogonality is equal to 0. See, this you should remember. Orthogonality of two signals. So here f1 of t is one signal, f2 of t is one other signal. So what is the condition for testing the orthogonality of two functions? Means this one. This is the one. So sometimes, most of the times, directly you are getting a single question for 7 marks. Derive the expression for orthogonality of two functions or two signals. Now this is the expression you need to derive for testing the orthogonality of two functions. Okay. So with this, I am going to conclude this session. Do you have any doubts? Do you have any doubts? You please raise your hands so that I will clarify your doubts. Sorry, I have taken 15 minutes additional time for completion of this particular topic. Only 2 more topics that are left in the chapter number 1. So within this week, definitely I shall try to complete unit number 1, introduction part. Later, we are going to see the Fourier analysis. Already, I don't want to take much time for again the introduction of the Fourier analysis and Fourier transform. Why? Because already you have learned these concepts in your earlier semesters. Okay. Anyone is having any doubt regarding today's topic? Please raise your hand so that I will give you the permission to unmute yourself. Shall I wind up? Shall I wind up the session? At least for, okay. Thank you.